This is a presentation of the Sports Source Digital Network, presented by Hearthside Bank.
Welcome into the Sports Source Digital Network. I'm John Pennington, joined by a couple of VFL linemen. So we're going to talk about the offensive line today with former Vol captain Mike Stowell, recent former Vol right here, Ollie Lane. Thanks to both of you guys for being in here. Notice I didn't say recent.
Not recent anymore.
Maybe you look young. We're about to see you may be a little older than me. You look a lot better than me, so congratulations.
A lot older than me.
That's it. Look it. There you go. Okay, I want to talk about the offensive line because you've got quite a bit of turnover. So I want to get two experts in here. 4 new starters on this offensive line. Not quite sure who the center is going to be. And if it's Sam Pendleton, then you don't know who the right guard is going to be necessarily. You've also got a true freshman starting at right tackle. So there's a lot to cover here. My first thing is, how long does it take to get chemistry, communication? I mean, it's the one position on the field where everybody has to kind of work together and know what the other guy's got to do. You got to have some trust there. How long does it take to build that kind of chemistry, that kind of communication when you're putting 4 new guys out there next to Lance Hurd?
Yeah, from a player's perspective and knowing all that goes in. So my senior year, I was the only returning lineman. Moved me to left tackle. We have 4 new guys. Now we have Bubba Miller, Jeff Smith, Brian Spivey, Rodney Gordon filled in, and Jason Lane. We had some pretty good guys.
3 of those guys in the pros, I think, or 2 of them.
They were in the program for a year, right? So they knew the system. So when you think about coming in, transferring in, they got to learn a new nomenclature, terminology, understand what's going on, understand the concepts and the way the system is played. And then y'all got to get on the same page as far as communication. Who does what? When a defense does a certain thing, whose the responsibilities are. It's a huge task. And I don't think people realize how challenging it is as an offensive lineman to be able to go in there and go, all right, yeah, I'm just this guy I don't know. I'm gonna jive with him and play right next to him and pick up right where he left off. It's tough.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I can think back to when we made an offensive change from Coach Helton to Coach Chaney. I mean, just as an offensive lineman, still in the same program, but I'm learning all new terminology, all new schemes, all new stuff. That was hard to kind of encapsulate that in and be ready for that same year to go and play some games. I mean, obviously, it depends on your IQ, I guess, of how fast you can pick things up. But, I mean, it's definitely difficult for a new guy to come in and try to pick up everything that's going on, especially with how many moving parts our offense has. Especially as they've progressed this offense, they use their linemen more to out in space, pulling them out and around. You see it a ton, especially last year's offense. So there's a lot of different keys that they need to know to pick up on, especially on defensive fronts and stuff like that, that just you need experience to see it. Especially with a lot of the defenses that get ran against us. Sometimes it's hard to pick up the first few times you see it. You got to have that experience to see and know what you're looking for, especially when you're replacing people like your center that has to help everybody else get on that same page. And if he's not experienced enough to know what he's looking at, it can cause a skew of miscommunication across the board that results in sacks, blown up plays, tackles for loss, all that kind of things that you don't want for an offense.
Now, either way you go about it, you're throwing a new starting quarterback into the mix too.
Yes.
What kind of a wrench does that throw into the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, just when you're looking at it too, I mean, that same chemistry goes with the center and the quarterback as well. So, I mean, as you're throwing in that new quarterback in there, that quarterback's still trying to pick up on what he's supposed to be reading in this offensive scheme. So he's not going to have the same initiative to go out and say, hey, we're going to re-ID the mic here every single time. Or he's not going to be able to know exactly what the protection's supposed to look like because he doesn't have that experience in the offense yet. I mean, you saw guys like Kendon Hooker that had that experience that could go up and say, no, we need to go here versus where you guys are calling it at because I can see that a blitz is coming this way. A less experienced quarterback's not going to be able to see that, and it's going to rely a lot heavier on that center to make sure that they're getting everybody in the right position.
You went through that with Heath Schuler.
Yeah.
Was a young guy, and you were a veteran on the line. How much is that? You'd like to think that the quarterback's getting everybody else in place. The Peyton Mannings, the Tom Brady. But there was a time when Peyton Manning was the rookie and came out there and they said, shut up, rookie.
Yeah, for sure. It's a situation. If you think about Tennessee's offense and the way it's designed as well, it's about pace. It's about quickness, right? So you got a quarterback in there who's got to see things, make a decision quickly, and throw the ball. I think you saw last year slow down. the pace because, number one, Nico is a freshman and trying to figure things out. I think you're going to see the same thing. You're not going to see the pace that Tennessee typically has because that quarterback's got to see things. And then, like Ollie said, your center's calling things on the line because he's seeing everything. He's knowing, like, okay, I got 6 in the box, it's a pass. I got 5 in the box, it's going to run, but we got to go this way. So for that adjustment as well, the game's going to be moving a lot faster. App State to Tennessee to the SEC, big jump. Big jump in speed, big jump in pace, big jump in everything. And then you throw in all these new offensive linemen. I think early on it could be really challenging. So look for it to be very, very simple and very, very rudimentary as far as what's going on with a slower pace.
There has been talk this offseason, we talked about it with a couple of other people on here. Let me get your take. And this is a little slight tangent because you just brought up the tempo. There were some folks last year who took Clark Lee at Vanderbilt, talked about the fact that Tennessee really hasn't tried to be the tempo team this year. They've tried to keep you off balance a little bit more. You don't know if you're going to be tempo in this series, if they're going to go more methodical in this series. I think a lot of us around here said, well, that's because your offense isn't as good, so you're having to slow it down. Offensive coordinator of Virginia Tech, who runs the veer and shoot, came out and said that defenses have figured some things out to where they can deal with you. So now, rather than going 1,000 miles an hour and just trying to call 100 plays a game, at Virginia Tech, we're going to try to goose it a little bit. You don't know what's coming. Do you think Tennessee did that last year as a premeditated plan to slow it down a little? Or do you think it was a reaction to, we're not as good as we have been in the past, we need to slow it down?
I'm going to say that it was probably they're not as good as they used to be and they needed to slow it down just a little bit. I mean, I know the mentality over there, the big key is we go fast. And that's the thing, we're going to go fast. And I think they did have to slow it down a little bit just because that experience wasn't there. Now, I think that is a good idea, though, to do that because, I mean, what happens in situations is when you try to go fast every single time is you run yourself into 3 and outs in like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And you're just handing the offense the ball back with a ton of time left. So, I mean, I think in situations that is a good idea to go to that. I don't think that was the scheme that they were
Motivation
going for
last
last year. Yes.
Yeah, Tennessee's strength last year was their defense, clearly,
Yep.
and their defensive front. And so their thought was, okay, somebody's not going to run 50 points on us, right? We don't have to score 45 to win a game. Our defense is going to keep us in the game. So they're going to slow the pace down. I do think, though, it was specifically around, all right, we don't adjust well. We're trying to make the reads. You know, you think about just making those decisions in a quick pace. I don't think Hooker, those guys, they're experienced. They're 5th and 6th year, 7th year type of football players. You got a guy who's 1 year into college or 2 years into college, different.
Well, I think it's one reason, personally, I would give Heupel some credit for last year being able to say, we're going to have to win with defense. What's the one thing I could do to screw my defense over? Have them keep going out there after 30 seconds.
for sure.
So to lean on the defense. All right, right tackle. You got a true freshman in David Sanders. You paid a mint for him because Ohio State wanted him. They get a discount because they churn everybody in the pros. So you had to pay a lot of money to get this guy to come here. What can you expect from a true freshman, a guy who was playing high school football last year, and now he's going to be at right tackle in the Southeastern Conference?
Tackle perspective, if he was a left tackle, I'd be worried. Right tackle's a little bit safer, right? I mean, if you look across, unless you got a left-handed quarterback, right tackle, you're right in the vision of your quarterback typically, or you're going to see things. He's a great athlete. When I saw him in high school, it's like, man, he looks more like he's lean for an offensive tackle.
Yeah, he's going to put the weight on.
And he has, apparently he's put on 20 pounds already, so he's gotten bigger. I think you're going to see moments where he does really well. I don't think you're seeing moments where he realizes I'm going against a 22-year-old guy who's going to be playing in the league next year, and I just got physically whooped, or I just got mentally chest moved by doing something. You're going to see there's going to be growing pains. The biggest thing is, can they develop him enough, give him enough foundation to where those moments are minimized? Because it's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen true freshmen come into the SEC and play really well. I mean, I think back to guys like Trey Smith and Jerome Carvin that came in as freshmen and gave some really significant time. But you're right. There's going to be times that it's going to look really good. And then there's probably going to be some times where, he's going to get outplayed by a guy that's more experienced and older than him. I don't think with his athletic ability, I don't think he'll ever really get beat around his edge as much. I think he'll be able to run him around the hoop and get him clear of the quarterback. The only thing that worries me is the inside moves against him and his inexperience of being able to react as fastly enough, especially with the speed that some of these edge rushers have, of crashing into that B gap, making sure that he can get in there and cut it off if he's staying man versus being in the slide.
They really need Lance Hurd to take a step forward this year. And you think he will?
Yes, yeah, I think he will. I mean, when I look at Lance Hurd, I see a lot of similarities, and I've said this a lot in the past, to Darnell Wright. Darnell Wright was not 100% perfect the first few years when he was on campus, but he continued to progress under Coach Ellerby.
He got a little better every year.
It got better every single year, and I think Lance is going to continue to do that. I think last year he got his good year taste in of what the Tennessee program is, what the competition is across the country on the schedule. And so I think he's going to continue to improve. He saw his shortcomings last year, and I'm sure he's probably gone in this offseason and focused on those to continue to improve himself, to put himself in a position. Because, I mean, the fact is, with replacing 4, and he's the only returner, he's got to kind of be that lead man on that offensive line because he knows what's going to be out there most of the time.
There were a lot of talk last year about feet like concrete, not slow-footed. How much of that can be fixed?
So I think a lot of that is, number one, as you get older, you understand what the game's supposed to look like. You know, you see your cell phone film, you're like, okay, I got to do this, and you start doing it. Again, you know, you go from year 1 to year 2, that's a big jump. That's a big jump as far as mentality, experience, like, okay, I got this, right? You got another off season, you're working through this, you're thrown into the spotlight of you're the returning guy, you got to know this. I think as long as they continue to work on that, I think that was his detriment. Is just like, you know, if you don't move your feet, you're beat. That's all there is to it. And so if he's moving his feet or he's learning to, you know, improve that footwork, he's going to be just fine. The question is, does he do it every single play or does he revert every once in a while? That's the thing. You know, it's just a mental grind where you got every single play, you got to stay sharp. You do that enough, then it just becomes second nature.
Center position. I think a lot of people were hoping Satterwhite would take that thing, and Sam Pendleton, who you brought in from Notre Dame, would slide right into right guard. Things didn't go well in the spring, from what I hear, in terms of the center position. So now there's questions. Is it Satterwhite or is it Pendleton? And if it's Pendleton, does Satterwhite just go to right guard? Or does Sham Uvarov take over right guard? Or Jesse Perry flip sides and go over there? I don't even have time to get into depth. There's not a ton of depth either.
Yeah, there's not much time to do because you don't have any.
Well, right. And when you lost Larry Johnson, who was competing with Sanders for the right tackle spot, he goes to Oregon. Yeah. You didn't replace him in the portal, which I understand I'm going to change jobs to be a backup.
Yeah.
But still, you got real questions on depth. So there's nothing other than saying we got real questions at depth. There's no reason even covering it. So I'm going to ask instead the center position, how big of a concern? I mean, again, new quarterback, center's right there in the middle of this thing. If you don't have a real, good, trustworthy center, kind of undercuts the whole offensive line. Yeah. So your thoughts on where they are right now at the center position 2 months from kickoff?
Yeah, I mean, not as confident as I'd want to be in the center position. You know, it's kind of a sad dilemma that's kind of taking place. You know, you got blessed with having Cooper Mays for 4 to 5 years, and you thought you would have had your rotating in, but then you lost Addison Nichols, you lost Vyson Lang, and now you're down to Satterwhite and Pendleton. And the fact is, it takes a while to, I guess, get a snap down. As Satterwhite hasn't really been able to get a secured confidence in getting the ball back to the quarterback as often as you'd want him to, which is not a great thing to hear, but it takes time, repetition, and practice. You just got to find that sweet spot. You know, it took me a while, really, when I started transitioning more into that center role, of finding, like, what was the correct grip that I needed to put my hand, what, you know, elbow to groin, all that kind of stuff. And you just got to keep repetition of that stuff until the snap needs to be the last thing you think about as a center. And once you're not thinking about the snap, that's when your snaps start becoming gold.
One of the things for you, though, is they kept bringing you out there. You're spending the offseason as a guard, and then you get moved over to center at the last minute. So I would think that would make you think about.
Yes, no,
it's not like we're moving you from left guard to right guard.
Yes.
I know what I'm doing. I'm just looking the other way, and I know that can throw you. But that's different from now I have to snap the ball to the quarterback back there. I could understand where you would be sitting there going, it's in your head, all those little pieces. You moved around on the offensive line quite a bit. Were you at center at any point?
But in the CFL played center.
Okay.
And so had experience with that. It is, so the most decisions probably made up front go through the center. All the decisions, snap count, positioning, make sure everybody's on the same page, because you can see the whole field.
Yeah.
Left tackle can't see what's going on over here, so you got to communicate everything. I think people realize how good Cooper Mays was, how valuable he was when he was out with his injuries and he wasn't playing.
Sorry, bud.
Systems were going down. I know, but I mean, but that experience, right?
Yes.
You don't step in and be able just don't step in.
Yeah, you can't soak it in.
And because you got to worry about the snap, and because you got to worry about the snap, you got to worry about all the other things, and there's just so many decisions. And so, like you know, the center position, specifically in Tennessee's offense, because they see everything, they make all the calls, is critical to be able to do that. So the fact that can't get a snap in, that's worrisome, because you know, if you give you all offseason to work on it, you get it, right? But if you don't, you're thrown in. So you've had the offseason to work on it. You're not getting it. It's like, okay, can the guy just not do it?
Yeah.
And so you slide Pendleton over as you want to put your best 5 on the field. But you've got to have, you know, that center position has just got to be somebody that you don't worry about. Because if you're worried about your center position, you're worried about everybody else.
Yeah.
Well, and that's where I was going to go with it. I mean, you practice as a guard, and then you got called in. Now, they had given you enough snaps to where you weren't completely foreign to it, but you're a guard. Pendleton came in as a guard. He was a guard at Notre Dame. Yeah, they're giving him some snaps there at center. Maybe they're giving him more at center than they are at guard toward the end of spring. But how big of a concern is it? You would like to think your center is your center and your backup center is your center, and they're worried only about center.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I mean, you got to prepare them for emergencies. But I don't know how prepared Pendleton is going to be if he was just if you're guard for this period, now you're center for this period. I'd rather you just be the center. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's how you want your first string center to be. I mean, that's how it always was. Cooper never played any other position.
Right.
It was center. He practiced center every single day, worked with the centers, was only a center. And, you know, when I playing guard, like, all right, this period of Indy, I'm going to go snap some balls and play center. But then this period of team, I'm over here at guard the whole time. And then this period of Indy, I'm back at the other guard on the other side, and then all over the place. So, I mean, it gets complicated because you're working on so many different aspects. Yeah. And, I mean, you even get into it, the center stance is completely different from a guard stance. So, I mean, there's a lot of mental loops that goes into it. And then when you don't have that confidence at center that you really know what you're doing, then you can't do the specialty stuff that a center is really good at. Because, I mean, what a center can do for you is save you in a lot of bad spots. I mean, you saw Cooper do it a lot. He'd pop out to the edge and collect the guy running high tail off the edge, or he'd see the backer, oh, he's coming from this side, let me go to this side. You're not going to see that from an inexperienced center. You're going to see that guy, this is my spot, this is where my coach told me I need to keep my eyes, and this is where I'm going to be, which is fine. That's his job.
Yeah.
But the more experience that you get, the less you got to worry about the snaps, the less you got to worry about the play calls and what you're telling everybody else, the more you can get into that specialty stuff that this offense really thrives on, being able to have the ability to do that.
A lot of people get mad when we do segments like this. It's like, well, you make it so negative, like it's not going to work. Nobody says it's not going to work. We're just trying to point out all those people are going, it's going to be fine. We're going to be 10-2. You guys don't know what you're talking about. We're trying to lay out for you. There are a lot of potential issues here. You may cover them all. You may take care of it. Everybody steps in there and is great. But there are a lot of potential problems on this offensive line going into this season. I just think people need to realize, okay, if there's going to be issues on this team, you get a new quarterback, but buddy, that offensive line, there's a lot of stuff that could go wrong there.
Yeah, well, and I think the last thing to remember, too, is, you know, we're just seen as big, dumb guys just to get in people's ways. And
right.
Like, it's a flipping hard position to play.
Yes,
There's so much that goes into it, you know. Put Ollie 3 inches off my nose, and I got to snap the ball, step to get the right direction, get help, make sure I see everything. I mean, there's so many things that go into that to be right. And one little thing, if you do it wrong, you get beat. And so I think that's the thing where, you know, they can just be offensive line, just get in front of somebody. There's a lot more to it.
Yeah. I mean, you could be told to take a 6-inch step, and you accidentally take an 8-inch, and then you're beat.
You're beat.
I mean, it's that easy.
Yeah.
Which people up in section XX are considering.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Mike Stowell, Ollie Lane, thanks to the VFLs coming in and talking the offensive line. And thanks to you for watching today on the Sports Source Digital Network. Be sure to click like. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit notify, leave a comment. And we'll see you next time on the Sports Source Digital Network.